Hello everyone, welcome to Griff Gaming. I am Griff, and today I am joined by Tobias Stoltz-Zweeling, better known as Sir Tobi. He is the PR manager over at Warhorse Studios. He's been with the company for over a decade and was the face and integral part of the build-up for Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, and now, of course, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Sir Tobi, welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a big honor. Dude, we are watching your videos, so you are a known face among the Warhorse dev team as well. So it's an honor to talk to you, and big props for trying to spell my name completely. Trust me, I have a German name, and even the Germans can't pronounce it correctly. So
how close did I get? Okay, how close did I get? Very far off?
Very close. You got very, very close. But it's it's a tongue twister in pretty much for everyone, so I get that.
Well, Sir Tobi, you shall remain, and tip of the cap to you. It's an honor to have you on my channel as well. So this is a big day, and I just want to also commend everyone at Warhorse. It seems like the way that you guys communicate with the community, the one-to-one, and we saw that a lot with the build-up for the first game, all the devlogs that you guys had. And, just the interaction that you guys have with your fan base is absolutely incredible. And I can't think of any other game studio that has that kind of same connection with their fans.
I wouldn't say we are very unique in that, but you are right. I mean, since you need to know that everything started with Kickstarter in 2014, and of course, this means that you have to be in contact with the community, because you're asking to fund or help funding a project which is not out there. You're just selling wild dreams and speculations and promises, and it's extremely necessary to stay in touch with the people, be open about everything, communicate with them. Because you want to build up trust, of course, and you don't want to end up like all those other famous games that are promising stuff and then vanishing all of a sudden. That luckily didn't happen to us. Everything went great. Of course, we changed a little bit the way how we communicated, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It's more like we had a 4-year campaign for Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, which is really a long time, where we are announcing something, then we find out a half a year later that it will be completely different. So we're just like, hey, remember how we said it will be this way, but well, now it's different. So we were waiting way longer with the announcement for KCD2 to have better material, to have a big boom when announcing it, to be able to show trailers and pictures and everything. But still, we're trying to be very active with the community, of course.
And that was actually something I was going to mention. The build up to the two games releasing couldn't have been more different. Like I had mentioned, with the build up to KCD1, because it was all on Kickstarter and you had to almost gain fan trust, off the bat, because it was something that we hadn't seen before. So we had all these live streams and developer updates, introducing you to characters, to the different towns and the different cities. And then this one, it almost felt like absolutely nothing for 5 years. And then you guys did everything that you did for the first game in just an 8-minute trailer, just as everything in your face and almost complete. Now, I have to ask, was that planned from the beginning? Because development started in 2019. Was that something from the bat that you guys decided, like, hey, we don't want any of these old images flying around, we just want to show a mostly completed product? Or was this somewhere along the development cycle that it was decided that we would just have this big shebang of a reveal?
That's a good question. So we started working on KCD2 in 2019. So with we just released the Royal Edition. Let's put it differently. The whole team shifted from KCD1 to KCD2 in 2019. Of course,
gotcha.
Concept artists and these and design, some of the designers, they already started pre-producing KCD, the new product, KCD2, and the rest of the team then shifted over after the last patch, after the last release with the Royal Edition. And since 2019, we were full steam ahead developing towards KCD2. Of course, it was we wanted to announce the game at a time where we know, where we have more tangible things to show to the people, videos, pictures, a better, clearer idea about the game. We didn't want to end up like other studios that are announcing a game, then you don't hear about anything about them a year or two or whatever, depending on how long it takes, and then you have to come back again. I strongly believe as a marketeer or PR person that you have, when you have two really huge beats. It's the announcement and the release, and in between you have to fill with interesting material. So first, the initial spike of, hey, everyone is interested, should be then feeded upon with more information. So we thought, hey, okay, we do the announcement, we do a big announcement, and then come step by step, do events and do smaller things and so on. The big question though was when to announce, and in what kind of atmosphere. So they were thinking of tying it to events, for instance, the Gamescom and an E3 and so on. We know the how the gaming world industry changed a little bit in the recent years. So E3, for instance, was gone. I personally wanted to announce the game on American soil, the idea behind that was, while I believe that Kingdom Come Deliverance is relatively known in Europe because it's a European game talking about European history, it's less grabbable for the American audience, while we sold most copies in the United States. I thought, hey, if we announce it in the United States on American soil, in your time zone with your preferred moderators or events or whatever, that it might reach a wider audience. But then E3 was
right,
gone,
went
away. Gamescom is not
it's not quite as grand as it. Yeah, it's big, but it's not
the biggest gaming event in the world. But it's really not the best place to announce a game, in my opinion, because there's so many other things floating around. Same with the Summer Game Fests and Game Awards and so on. You are fighting against a huge, and you don't even know who you're fighting against. So sometimes you have years where there's not many big things being announced. Then you have years where there's like one huge title after the other. So after long consideration, we said, how about we do our own thing? We really invest into that. We make a great video. We had a 3 days shoot. We had a filming crew of maybe 50 to 60 people. So really a huge filming crew that is usually doing TV commercials for huge cell phone companies and so on. So really like legit filming crew. We booked. We are thinking for a long time what we want to show there. There were ideas of having it inside the studio. We thought with my colleague Vitek that shooting inside the studio is a bit boring because you know how offices look like. So let's go further. Let's be special because the game takes place in real life locations. So why don't we use the real life locations?
Yeah.
Right. And then one thing came to the other, and at the end we had this huge ass announcement, which casted way bigger. Well, I trusted the video a lot. I was sure that the production value and the information value and everything is really high, and I was sure that it will make waves. But I didn't expect to cast that huge of
that big a wave. Yeah, it was like a tsunami. Yeah.
It was good.
Well, I mean,
something to build up on. It's definitely the biggest thing we've ever did as a studio.
I was going to say for the company, because I did a little bit of research, and even in the build up to this one, you know, the initial announcement trailer for KCD1, I think that got up to, you know, and now we're 6 years down the line. I think that was somewhere in the realm of 600,000 views. I think this one for KCD2 did 2 million in about 2 weeks. So I'd say from where we were, it was absolutely crazy. Now, speaking of that video, were you guys all just having a laugh at us by making this announcement on April 1st? I have to believe that there was some sort of laugh at Warhorse Studios.
Yeah, when we did the teasing for the announcement, then there was this picture of it was.
The end.
Now we know that it was first of all the end, of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was so the reason I say that you guys have notoriously messed with us on April Fools, because I think I can't remember if it was 1 year ago or 2 years ago on April 1st. You guys had this this picture on Twitter, I believe, or X, where it said, "Now introducing the new ultra hardcore DLC." Where it sounded good till about midway down, and you're like, "Wait a minute, they're just taking the piss out of us." Yeah, it's permadeath, and if you die, the game uninstalls from your system. So I'm like, "Oh, these guys are just having a laugh out there." So we see this screen, and I'm like, what is going to be the punchline for this? And then all of a sudden, long awaited, just a few days later, we get, hey, new game announcement, and then it was full steam ahead. But it was like these years of just kind of messing with us. I have to believe that was planned on April 1st.
Of course.
You guys don't do anything without some sort of plan.
It even continued, because then we did the teasers for the announcement, actually.
Yep.
Where we had Tom McKay sitting on a horse, but he was sitting there in a rather modern outfit, and people were like, "Wait a moment! So is this like a different time period or whatever? What's this game about?" There's Czech Republic was around World War I and before. That was a republic and everything, so it was quite a famous time as well. So here in Czech Republic, people were like, "Okay, is this about like war times or something? Are they changing now into the First Republic or something?" It's like,
and then there was a little isolated gargoyle. So then we're like, wait, are they moving into the fantasy genre, or what are we expecting here? It was almost like, and I've heard you say this before, it was the worst kept secret in gaming, but until you guys said anything was possible. So we all kind of knew, wink wink, that it was KCD2, but because no one had flat out come out and said it, we still had that little bit of giddiness when it was confirmed, because we didn't know, until someone actually comes out and tells us. It was
well, that's a general rule. Unless you confirm it, it's not confirmed, right?
Right.
But we had 4 pictures, I think, 4 teaser pictures for the announcement, and in it was super hard to find, but there were like hidden letters in the picture. So there's the first picture has a K, second a C, third a D, and the fourth has a 2. And there was one guy on Reddit who was saying like, "Wait a moment, guys.
Yeah.
So do you see the same
figured
thing?"
it out.
And everyone was like, "Nah, dude, take your medication or take less of it. I don't know." And they were like really making fun of him.
Yeah.
And he knew from the beginning. No one believed him, and everyone was making fun of him. And I was like,
yeah. That's the only guy that was right. Yeah. Meanwhile, everyone was backing the microwave theories and the U-track numbers, and finally someone figured it out. They were like, no, they wouldn't do something like that. We've tried that before, So yeah.
I can also remember we had a workshop at Warhorse Studios years ago, and it was a workshop about medieval outfit and everyone getting the new guys who are coming into the team up to speed and everything. And there was on the white how do you call that, whiteboard? On the whiteboard in the back, there was a code written. It was KCD2 dash something
1506 or something. Yeah, it was.
But this was the number of so we have a U-track system where you have like tasks and everything, and all the feedback goes in there, and where people can like exchange information. So, and that was the number of this U-track file, that if you have any feedback, go there and write everything down. And people were like, "Oh, okay, it is KCD2 16 something or something like that." Like,
right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, but hey,
that was fun.
I would imagine on your guys' end, it's almost fun to, obviously it wasn't meant to mislead people, but for you guys, just speculation or any sort of media or coverage, anyone covering it on Reddit. I mean, that's got to be a good thing, because who knows, someone who's never heard of the first game now comes upon this, this conversation of, this second game. So they go check out the first game, any sort of, waves or splashes that happened in that 6-year period. I'm sure you guys were stoked about. And just kind of let those flyers burn, even if they were completely off. But
So I'm in various Teams chats we have here in the team. Some of them are called horse shit, others are called dopamine, and so on. And in those chats, they are exchanging like links from stuff they see in the internet, some of memes and so on. But usually it's KCD related, or most of the time it's KCD related. They're absolutely posting all the videos they see from speculations, from you, for instance, from Sexy Biscuit, from everyone. Be rest assured that the dev team is watching your stuff, pretty much everything. So
oh wow,
yeah,
no pressure, right? So to get a little bit also into the next game, so just some questions. I'm going to try to stick to stuff that we've seen and see if maybe you can expand upon it. I know you can't do anything story related or anything that we haven't seen, so I'll try to stick within that framework. If you're unable to answer, I totally understand. But has there been a rework of Master Strikes within the system? Because we saw in the gameplay showcase how Henry was able to like do an execution and do almost like a mercy kill from the standing. Can you elaborate on what's been done with Master Strikes in this sequel?
I can tell you generally that the combat was reworked. So I know it sounds like a phrase, but I really mean it. We took everything you know from KCD1, every single element, most of the features, really everything you know from the first game is transferred into the second, but built upon and reworked. It's definitely a huge evolution, not a revolution. It's still the same kind of game, but just so much smoother, which hopefully is also readable and watchable from all the reviews or previews and media feedback that is online already. And the combat is one of the things where we took a lot of feedback from the people, because I always said back in the times that the combat is easy to learn but hard to master. I think the hard to master we really nailed, the easy to learn not so much. So that is something where we try to be more accessible but not dump it down in a way. So it's really not, it's still the same system as deep as you know it from before, but while the sword, for instance, is the intricate weapon with all the combos and tricks, and you can attack the different zones and everything, there's less zones than before. So before you had head, shoulders, bottom, left,
bottom,
right,
legs, and then you also had the stab up and down. So there was two more. You can stab to the head and to the body.
You attack the head, exactly. So it was up, so 3 on the top, 2 on the bottom, so 6 in total. Now for the sword, it's 2 less. So you can attack the head, you can attack the shoulders, and if you aim at bottom, it stabs. So you have only 4, which should make it a little bit easier to execute combos, because that is something the game offered a lot of combos which many of the players couldn't use or used only by accident. And by accident, I mean if you just mash around and something
just
happened.
started clicking buttons and it happened.
Yeah. So on someone might say it's like made it easier. The point is not to make it easier, but we want you to be able to execute the combos more often, because they're cool and they have a purpose and they should help you and so on. So just make them easier to pull off, not too easy, but just easier. And if there's, but that's for the sword, and the sword is meant to be the, let's say, complicated one, the deep one. But if you say screw that's too hard for me, I don't want to learn that, then other weapons now have different movesets. So the mace or the axe, for instance, is a way more straightforward weapon where you have way less zones to attack. You don't stab with it, because who would stab with a mace? So you just pretty much just aim for the head and whack the enemy on the head, because that is what you're supposed to do, right? When it comes to the Master Strikes and the combos and these kind of things, even those were streamlined. So you could see that, for instance, this slow motion thing is gone. We have we want the movement to be smoother and more fluid, and just give you a way better feeling when you're playing the combat, right? So combat generally, as I said, is completely not changed, but smoothed out, and we try to build upon the basics we have.
That was a fantastic answer. And to speak a little bit more on the combat, like you said, with the evolution of the combat. So we saw in the first game that the combat might sometimes, it works fantastic against 1-2 opponents and stuff, but against, like, in some of the large encounters or multi enemies and stuff, it tended to struggle a little bit. And I would imagine in the second game that we're going to have a lot more of that, a lot grander battles and you know, a lot more enemies on the screen and stuff. Can you speak a little bit about what improvements have been done to smooth that out a little bit?
Yeah, I won't pretend that it's dramatically changed because it will, as I said, it will be. It's still the basis or the fundament is still the same as in KCD1, but while trying to smooth out the combat, we also try to make it easier to switch between the enemies, to be able to block when you will get hit from different sides, and so on. But it will still be almost like in real life, I'd say. The less enemies you have to fight with, the better. But since you now have a bigger set of weapons, for instance, you should use this to an advantage. So we are introducing now also early gunpowder weapons and crossbows.
Looking forward to that so much.
Yes, and if you for instance take the gunpowder weapons, there should be one shot. So aim at someone, kill him with a shot, then change into a melee weapon and kill off fight off the others. So and because now we have also some, let's call them quality of life improvements, where you can easier change between weapons. Something like
a quick bar,
like a Batman belt.
Yeah, the little utility belt.
Yes, the utility belt, and you can now store, I think it's 4 weapons at once on this belt, where you can then change between them. Also, you can have 3 sets of armors. It's still, and this is again the compromise between realism and gameplay and so on. In KCD1, we said you can absolutely not change in the middle of combat because it doesn't make sense, unrealistic, and so on. Now we said, okay, we saw that it's something where people struggled. We still want to stay on our authenticity wave, but so you cannot change inside the combat. But if you see that combat is going to happen, or that you are preparing to steal or rob or whatever, then you can just open up your inventory, and with the click of a button you can exchange your entire outfit without manually unequipping and equipping other stuff, which I think that's a quality of life improvement and a good compromise, I think.
Yes, and amazing, because the thing that I always found myself having trouble with in the first was I would like to have, you know, a stealth, a city outfit, and, you know, a full armor, but unless you remembered the exact name of every single one, you have no idea which one goes with which outfit. You know, so I think that that's big, because now we saw, obviously, you put a little shield on, you know, this is set number 1, set number 2, and set number 3. So when you're going to these, you know, merchants and stuff, you're not accidentally selling off your entire stealth outfit just because it's not equipped on you. And all of a sudden you realize that you're like, I let that one go by mistake. So that is huge. And that is one of the things that I actually asked for. And, you know, I want to say like 8 months ago. In my wish list for KCD2, and when I saw that in a click, I was like, oh my goodness, they did it. They did it.
Yeah. For you,
I have to imagine. Yeah, I have to imagine.
Griff said he needs that. So
see, and I am so honored and blessed that I have that much influence over at Warhorse. It means the world. Also, speaking of outfits, we saw a cool little thing in the original trailer where it seems to be that there was a bandit in the road. He had his visor up and he clapped it down. Is that going to be something that's available to the player?
Yes.
And then,
before you had like the helmet, right? And if you equip a specific helmet, then you have it always see through that little window there.
Yep.
Now you will be able to put the visor up and down.
Gotcha. And then in the gameplay showcase, we saw that there was its own unique slot for hoods. It's no longer tied in with the outer garment slot. Are hoods also going to get that same kind of love where you can equip them up or down? You can wear them both ways?
That is something we're still checking out. Can't give you a definitive answer on that one. But generally, I think we overwork the outfit systems quite a lot. So, but that is something that is still kind of under production. There's always, the thing is with these minor or smaller things, it is a smaller thing, but let's talk about it. You always have to like think about how much energy do you put in those things and how much do they actually make the game better. Of course, for immersion, would be amazing. There would be a lot of things that would improve the immersion. Absolutely, and that's the thing that you can endlessly improve. I'm sure, but at some point you just have to say, yeah, it's a nice to have, but we need to put the focus more on, I don't know, combat or something like that, right?
Quest design, you know.
The visor thing is something that made it into the game. The hood thing, let's see.
Okay, fair enough. And another evolution that we also saw was with the alchemy or the potions. So in the gameplay showcase, we saw when Henry opened up that chest that there each one of those potions was labeled with different tiers. So strong Artemisia, strong Bane. Can you tell us what the difference between something like a weak or a strong Bane is? Do you get more uses out of it, or is it just a more potent version of the weak one?
Yeah, let's wait for the features on the game is out. There's a lot of things that is being added. So even the alchemy system got improved a little bit, as you saw yourself. There's different qualities of potions, but let's wait for that once the game is out. But I can already tease you. But you saw that as well. The big addition to everything is that we have a brand new mini game, which is the alchemy, the blacksmithing, which was funny because that is something that we always wanted in KCD1, because you're playing Henry, son of a blacksmith, but not able to blacksmith. We wanted to have it in the first game, absolutely, but at the end we just had to scratch it, just because we didn't make it in time. But now it's in there and will be equally sophisticated as the alchemy system, where you have to, of course, get the different resources. Then you have to heat the iron. You have to watch the color of the iron, of the sword, I mean. Then you have to beat it with a hammer and at the right location and the right rhythm and so on. If you do it right, Henry starts to whistle. Then you have to cool it down and so on. So you're now able to create your own weapons, which is pretty cool, I believe.
Wow. Yeah, no, absolutely. And especially I do love that you guys actually did it in that Warhorse way, where it's not just click a button and you magically have a sword pop up. You actually have to work for it, because a lot of people, when they talk about like the archery, right, there's no crosshair. I personally love that, because in the beginning it is frustrating, you know, and even for myself with all these hours that I have in the game, I still suck in the beginning because the character himself is struggling with it. But and I've told people, I was like, you know, once you get into the late game and you can nail a shot at 50 yards, there's no better feeling, because you know that it was you missing those 120 shots that led to you being able to nail, you know, that far away shot. So that's honestly one of my favorite features, is something that is difficult, you know, failing on 10 different potions, or maybe in this one, you know, getting all the materials together to build this brand new sword, and you fail it and you're like, oh, son of a gun, you know, I got to restart. But when you actually accomplish it, it's like, oh, I did that, you know.
That was definitely that was the inspiration, or the origin story. I mean, you are playing as Henry, who's this village bloke who gets torn into this regular guy who gets torn into irregular situations, and you are not able to do, even in one of the first cutscenes, you're not able to swing the sword correctly. Right. So you have to learn it as a player, and he has to learn it as a player. And but every single level up you have will make you significantly stronger or better. So it's even with the horse riding, where the horse is wonky at the beginning, but then if you level it up a little bit, it gets way easier. Same with bow shooting or sword fighting and so on. But you need to also know that the bow, it's a very common misconception that in movies usually you have, unless it's an elf, it's like super weakling guys standing in the background shooting a bow because they're not strong enough to wield a sword or something like that. But in reality, that's absolutely wrong, because you need those people are extremely skilled people. They're usually extremely strong, because holding a bow, pulling a bow, aiming the bow, and being able to aim at something and even hit it, it requires a lot of skill, training, and strength. So that's why it was supposed to be very difficult to use the bow. But meanwhile, this is the reason why they invented the crossbow in the Middle Ages, because that is actually a weapon or a tool that every dingus can use.
Right.
Because the only you don't need to hold it. It's like you don't have to do anything else than just exactly pull the trigger. That is also something that we wanted in KCD1 but couldn't. So now it's in the second game. So that one is way more straightforward. So even when you will be playing with it, it is faster, but depending on the weight of because we have the light, the medium, and the strong crossbow or heavy crossbow, the bow is the fastest to use, and then the crossbows are a bit slower but easier. So it really again depends on your preferred play style.
Right. Yeah. No, that's amazing.
Aims easier to the middle. That is
right. Yeah, we saw that. We saw that one headshot, and it was basically you put the tip where you want it to go, and it shot straight at the enemy. So I think that's going to be a very welcome, because finally people are going to feel like, they can have that ranged option that maybe they weren't, willing to struggle through the beginning. I personally, like I said, I love it, but I know that a lot of people in the community were put off by it, but. I mean, to get good at a game, you got to play it. And boy, have I played it. Now, on the subject of performance, something some people have also been asking. So we saw in the gameplay showcase that it looked absolutely incredible, played on a RTX 4090 and, all the visuals, all the spectacle and everything. Are you guys able to kind of speculate on what the minimum requirements will be to play something like this?
This is something that is always lost, because you have to optimize the game, and with the optimization, the minimal specs are going down and down and down. So that is good news. I think generally I see a lot of worried comments on Twitter and Facebook and so on, YouTube, when we post a video. I honestly wouldn't be as afraid as some people are, like saying, "Oh my God, this will fry my GPU." I don't think it will. We are in a very good position right now with the stability and performance of the game. So as we speak, we are mainly bug fixing, and because that is something, of course, we don't want to mess with the nerves and patience of our community. But stability-wise and performance-wise, it runs already really smoothly on all the platforms, really all of them. So I wouldn't be too afraid here. And I think if you have a let's say standard GPU, then you will, or common GPU, then this will be fine. Okay. But this is something that we will of course announce once we know exactly. If I tell you not something now, this can change at any day. Right. But I wouldn't be too concerned about that. But you also need to know KCD is more CPU demanding game rather than GPU, but it was also the first game, so
gotcha. Okay, that's good news. Yeah. That, or at least that's some news that should hopefully put some people's nerves at ease, because they're seeing all this it's spectacle.
And plus, we are the way. So we did it already with KCD1. Where we had like, I think low, medium, high, very high, and ultra, or something like this. And ultra was by that, so we had 5 different settings, right? Low, medium, high, very high, ultra. So I don't expect that we will have less than that. In other words, of course, if you have a crappy PC, then it will be, of course, run worse. But we will have enough settings to make sure that everyone can enjoy it in as good as possible. Yeah. And plus, for the ones that are having those NASA PCs at home, we will again try and speculate and test with those, how do we call it? I forgot. Experimental or something like this. Ultra Plus, I have no idea. I forgot how we called it, but it will be like for future hardware.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's it's just some experimental mode that, for instance, when you play it in a year or two and you have even better hardware or something, that it stays, that KCD stays visually, relevant for a longer time. And I think KCD1 aged really well. Yes. And now pretty much everyone can play on Ultra. So and that was, I think, a good call.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Plus, we also had that DLC with the visuals pack that I feel like also helped it out a lot. It helped the some of the plants and everything, and some of the grass and just some of the scenery. I mean, that's got to be one of the most scenic and just beautiful games still, obviously until KCD2. I'm
Yeah,
really
it
looking
aged pretty
forward to
well.
that. It
Yeah.
did. It did, especially. I mean, even when I live stream and stuff, and people come on and for the first time, they almost can't believe it's a 6-year-old game. 2018, pre-COVID, which now feels like it's long ago, and this beat that by 2 years. So that's pretty incredible how good it still looks to this day. And I know that you've mentioned, speaking of Gutenberg and some of the performance and everything. What would you say has been the biggest change? Because when the first game was trying to load a lot of assets, so such as when you go into Ratai and stuff, it would kind of stutter a little bit. Has that just been a generational thing that it just runs better on current things, or was there something in the back end that you guys had to do to make sure that a city as big as Gutenberg runs smoothly?
I think a bit of both.
Okay.
Honestly, right? So hardware changes, software changes, engine changes. We have a bigger team of now 250 people.
Wow.
KCD1 was released by 110 max, but those 110 weren't there all of the time. So we have more hands on the matter, and we adjusted the CryEngine again to meet our demands and needs, and I'm just more confident here, honestly. KCD2 definitely runs way better now than KCD1 on release. So
that's good news. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a bit of everything. We changed the technology a little bit so we can have more characters on screen. There was a problem in KCD1 as well. So loading distances, but loading distances is always a problem. So if you have like long wide fields and everything, that is always a little bit tricky. That is actually in Gutenberg, or the Gutenberg is pretty much one-to-one reconstruction of the real city.
Wow.
Medieval city,
right?
But we slightly, tiny little bit changed the layout of the streets, not dramatically, but only so much that the curves are a little bit bigger, so that we have those visible blocks sometimes, like the house there, so you can't see down the street, right? But it's a tiny trick which it's the compromises we have to do due to technical reasons. But other than that, I'm really super confident about the performance of the game. So that is really nothing I'm worried about.
Yeah, little developer tricks there. I believe Silent Hill, where they put that fog in and everyone thought it was so cool that, oh my goodness, it gives us this eerie feel. But meanwhile, they're just doing that so it doesn't have to render in as many particles. So yeah, little developer tricks there.
GTA 3 did that already. So I mean, 2005 or what? Everything is super hazy and so on, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
And because loading distances, right? And draw distances. Yeah.
So you have mentioned that Gutenberg was probably the hardest part of the development. So I won't ask you what the hardest part was, but in that vast, huge city, what is your favorite part of Gutenberg that you guys were able to feature?
It ties to the other question. What was the hardest part? So I think it's a huge challenge that we are trying to rebuild something that is really existing. So you can't just go wild with crazy ideas,
right?
If it's useful. What I mean by that is, hey, we need a building with 15 towers because whatever, and then we just create it because why not? Here we have a story we want to tell, and we have a place that is given, and now we have to mix them together, and sometimes we find out that it's not working one-to-one like that, and that we have to do compromises here and there. But I think what is really great generally is, from my perspective, living here in the Czech Republic, that Kutná Hora is still existing. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You can go there, you can travel to the place, and I'm looking forward to the people who played KCD2 and then go visit the city and say, oh yeah, I remember, and this is, and when we go right here, then we will go to then we will meet, I don't know, the Italian court, and you only know that because you played the game.
Right.
That is something that I think is really amazing. also that the city cooperates with that much. When they found out that KCD2 will take place in Kutna, they were absolutely shitting kittens and tried to really help us every with everything. Like, they already told me that we made so much PR for the city within the last months, more than the city was able to do in the last 10 years.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a hub for interesting things. So there's different people running around, quests that you can find, dark alleys where thieves and random encounters might happen. It's a royal city, so a king will be present, which you might meet there, and so on. The stages are way bigger. It's a very rich city, so you have all those painted walls, which is hopefully cleaning up with some of the common misconception, mainly from Hollywood, where everything in the Middle Ages is dark,
dirty, and
what's the Middle Age filter? I think it's light blue, right? Mexico and Latin America is yellowish, and I think Middle Ages are light blue or gray or something like that.
Something, yeah.
Everyone is
dark and drab, yeah.
Dark and gray. Everyone has black teeth and stuff,
ripped up clothing, and
everyone looks like a hobo or something.
Yeah.
But the reality is quite different. And of course, when people had money, they wanted to show off. Of course, there were haute couture like clothing, and you were trying to be in and cool, and of course, all right. So and I hope that when the gunpowder weapons is also something where people were like, "Are you sure that's medieval?" And we tell them, "Yes, it is." But by that time they were starting to become more popular. They were mentioned already in 1300 something, and 1400 they really started to use them more. So it's just this like. If this game, well, it's not an educational game, and we do not have the aspiration to teach someone about how it was. But if it at least inspires you to check something up or to like dig into it, then I think mission accomplished. So I'm really looking forward to let you guys roam through Kuttenberg and really enjoy it. And you know what's funny?
What's that?
Now that everyone is talking about Kuttenberg and everything, and the Kuttenberg map and so on.
Yes.
And most of the people are really imagining that it's the city is the map, but it's just really a tiny. It's not tiny. It's big.
Yeah.
But it's one location in a way bigger map. There's more things around that, but everyone is right now only talking about Kutna, which is fine for me.
Yeah.
So you guys can then explore the rest, but there will be other villages and fortifications and castles and so on. So there's more, of course.
Wow, because I even said, so Roxy, she just recently released, I believe you guys were featured on UK PC Gamer on the front cover, and they had that Kutna map in there. And when I saw that, I said, it almost looks like with just the building density, and that was just the map, that wasn't seeing all the NPCs, all the different shops. I said, just the building density almost looks like they took every single city from the first game and put it into one city. Just with the amount of buildings that you see, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's one city street. It's got, 10 buildings, and then right on the backside, it's got another one. And then this one has its own. It was absolutely incredible. I was like, wow, this is going to be a huge.
I saw the same post from Roxy, of course. So I took her picture because I was too lazy to find the high-res picture. I will post. We will post it at some point for sure, so you can use it. I posted. Check it out on my Twitter if you want. It's the Rattay map versus the Kutna map, and you can already see that Rattay really looks like one street in Kutna Hora.
Yeah.
So it's really massively grown, and the journalists that played in Kuttenberg at the preview event, Roxy included, they were only roaming. So they were roaming both maps, but they were playing the first tutorial or the start of the intro, game, which is a little bit. Yeah, the intro is more on rails because something happens and you have to go through a few stages before the open world opens. And the second part of the preview was one quest in Kutnahora, just one side quest, which already took over an hour. And they were only roaming the city and they haven't seen everything. So what I'm trying to say is that it's really, there's a lot of things to discover there. And but still, we are still trying to be authentic, so it's not like there's a question mark everywhere. And
right. Every single person
it should feel right and plausible.
Right. Yeah. I find it like always a trope in RPGs that every single person has a problem for you and only you can solve it. So it's finding that balance.
Everyone is waiting for
right.
you.
Everyone
exactly.
is waiting for you and the world does not move without you. And that was one of the things that I actually kind of liked in KCD, that stuff will just move on without you. If they tell you be here at 8 a.m. and you're not there, they're going to go. So, you come back 3 days later and here they are yelling at you like, where the hell were you? We asked you to come. And, it almost gives you that guilty feeling like you've been used to just having the game wait for you at every moment. It's your show. Meanwhile, this is almost like you really do feel like you're part of a bigger story. And that I think helps with immersion.
Yeah. And this won't change in KCD2, right? You are, in KCD1, I said you're growing from boy to man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Henry is a no one, and at the end of the game, you're still a no one, but a little bit less of a no one.
Right.
However, you are being the squire of Sir Hans Capon, and you are now on this peace mission, let's say, and you have to deliver this letter, and you're part of a group now, which is cool. In KCD2, you're growing from man to warrior, not a hero. You will still not become the Dragonborn. You're still part of this story that's going on, that is unfolding around you. But the only thing that really changes is that you're on a bigger stage right now, and that you are being confronted with way deeper and darker and bigger, even emotional decisions and confrontations. So you are being part of a guerrilla war group, kind of. And by guerrilla, I mean that you're putting together a crew. Mm-hmm. This crew is then trying to sabotage the invading king, and you're part of that. Imagine it a little bit like the encampment from Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes.
So you're not taking companions with you,
right,
but you have this kind of
group
camping, and on some missions you will then be accompanied by different characters, which are most of them are historical characters. So it's also interesting to meet those people.
Yes.
But as you can see already, you are now not playing alone anymore. In KCD1, you're most of the time doing stuff alone. Now you're part of a group. You're not even the leader of the group. Mm-hmm. So you're just part of the group.
Right.
Of course not. But maybe so much I can spoil. Maybe Henry will have way bigger crossroad decisions in front of him, where something goes really down the drain, and you have to decide, okay, if we do this now, then we will endanger the mission and my friends. Okay. If we do the other thing, then the mission and the friends will be fine, but those other people will be harmed that are not meant to be harmed.
Wow.
And then Henry reminds himself that this is exactly what happened to him in KCD1, where his village was attacked, seemingly out of nowhere. And the reason was not to attack the Skeleton, but the reason was to drive out the army or whatever from somewhere else. So he's now being put into the same kind of situation, and that is what I think will. That's when I say the game is deeper and darker. That's what I mean. That he will have those like inner conflict now going on, where you as the player have to decide. However, don't worry. The game will equally be also more humorous than it was before. So the Czech comedy style that is very similar to the British one, I'd say, will be still in there. It's slapsticky. It has its moments, and it's absolutely the big focus is between the bromance between Henry and Hans. And I think they together already harmonize extremely well. They did so in KCD1. There will be way more in KCD2. And I think it will be, there's a lot of things to laugh about. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and speaking of that slapstick, I also love how you guys do have this game grounded in reality, but you're not so overly focused on taking yourself too serious. So I wanted to actually ask about some of the Easter eggs. We see that everywhere in KCD1. Everything from the traffic cone, and we actually already saw that in one of the armor slots in the gameplay reveal. That traffic cone being featured, and then we've seen Wolverine, we've seen Harry Potter, all these different things, all the names of the horses either being from other. Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah. When I first visited, I want to say it's Merhoyed, and I saw Roach, and it was by this Polish couple and I about lost it. I was like, oh my goodness, here it is, The Witcher 3. So I love that, and it's literally everywhere, and I don't know if people even realize just how many that there are. Like I said, with all the different horses and everything. So I'd imagine that they are coming back for KCD 2.
You know what's the problem?
What's that?
Because people like our devs enjoy that a lot, of course, putting in the Easter eggs here and there everywhere. It got a little bit out of control, which makes me a little bit nervous, and also our production producer team.
Yeah.
Because every department is putting in their Easter eggs everywhere.
Yeah.
So so there will be a lot of them, and let's hope that it stays all good.
Well, so what is the process for getting an Easter egg in there? Every department has 5 or something that they can put in, or is this like a big town hall meeting?
Obviously, everyone does whatever they want, and they hope that no one finds out.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
This is how cats got into the game. It was never the plan to have cats in the game, because at some point the producing team just said, "Hey, we just can't add more animals because we have to finish a game here."
Yeah.
And they just the character department, they just
added cats.
Guerrilla style forced it into the game without telling anyone, and now we have cats in the game.
Yeah, so next time
you can't because it was only them without animation and programming, I don't know what, so you can't interact with the cats. They're sitting somewhere on the walls or roofs or whatever and running away in front of you, but we have cats in the game.
Yeah.
So the hierarchy system in War, and that's I believe why the dev team is generally such a happy crew here, and knocking on wood that it stays like this for forever. But we have a relatively flat hierarchy structure. That means that we don't have something like senior, junior level employees. They're all the same level, kind of. Of course, they have a team lead, and then there's the executive people and so on. But you can already see there's only so many levels of hierarchy before you get to the CEO, which means that everyone can bring up their ideas, which is great. Everything is being considered and talked about. You need to be able to defend your ideas then as well, because if you can bring up, if everyone can bring up ideas, then everyone can bash on them. So the process is maybe a tiny little bit slower than, because everyone, so many cooks and so on, the story. But the result is then, I believe, also stronger, because you have the best of everything then in the game, or at least it's talked about. And I think that benefits the product at the end. So I'm happy for the cats.
Oh yeah, yeah, and see, I always thought it was just your PR manager way of telling us that you don't know what all the Easter eggs are within the game. I'm assuming that it's just because they're so well hidden, you might not actually know. I thought that was you kind of finagling us.
I can't tell you, of course.
Well, no. But I'm saying even from the first game, because you would kind of, whenever you were doing interviews with the first game, you were like, well, I don't know which ones are here. It's because people just hid them so well.
Question. I'm being asked, hey, which of the Easter eggs was not found yet? I don't know.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. How do I know if someone in the UK has a channel with 2 members and they found it, but I don't want it? Okay. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
that makes sense.
So the most weird, I think, Easter egg in KCD1 was actually an Easter egg. So there was one Easter, I think in the year 2018, maybe the first Easter, or maybe 2019, where we actually added colored eggs into the game, and you could find one golden egg
Uh-huh.
that was hidden in Ratai, and it said something like it's made out of solid gold. Don't eat it and anything. And if you eat it anyway, you are on this weird acid trip where all the colors are inverted and everything. You move super slowly, and all the colors are really weird. So that is probably my favorite. Then there's of course references to pop culture stuff like Wolverine and Harry Potter. There's a quote from Red Dwarf, if you know that UK comedy series. There's
Yeah. A bunch. I mean, even the description on the torches, that's from Lord of the Rings. A light in dark places where when all other lights go out. So yeah, no, that's what I mean. It is absolutely packed to the gills. Just a couple more for you. I know you're a busy guy, so just there was an interview over on Commander Ivy's channel with Philip Killian, one of the cinematic designers, and he had a very funny story of the filming of when Henry and Hans are in the stocks together and they're getting pelted by all the different people. Hans gets hit with an apple. And he had a funny behind the scenes story of like all the design team and everything, like actually pelting pieces of paper over at, Luke Dale and Tom McKay just to make it feel more authentic. What was one of your favorite, like behind the scenes moments, either on the set or just throughout this entire development cycle of this game? Do you have one that stands out to you?
I'm of course not involved with the cutscene production, so I can't say too much about that because I'm just not physically there.
Right.
But I liked a lot the shooting of the announcement video, because that was a very intimate thing where we had both actors there, where we had a big crew, where we had like a mask, putting makeup and everything on there, which was really. This was the first moment where it really felt like, okay, this is now we are going now the next step. Like we're developing further now. This is starting to be huge. So that was. It's not a funny moment, but it's like a. It was like a emotional moment, let's say, in a way.
The culmination,
and then of course the preview event that I was organizing with 108 media outlets. I think it was 150 in total, journalists from all around the world. That was great. But like a funny story. It's a bit difficult to ask me like that. I think for me it's less funny. It's more this like feeling of that we have a really big product on hand that people are waiting for, and that seems so far, again knocking on wood, seems that could be a big success. That feels great, and working on a product that people are actually looking forward to really feels amazing. And I'm 10 years at Warhorse Studios. I did 2 games for Warhorse Studios, KCD1, KCD2. I did in the meantime, when Warhorse had nothing, where we had no product, or none of our own product, I did other games where it was way harder to convince people to be excited about it. So I kind of know both sides, and of course it's feels amazing when you have something that people actually want. And so for me, I think I'm extremely looking forward for the day of release. I think that is for me the huge highlight. So everything before is bonus. The day of release, that's the big thing.
Okay. All right. So I promised my Discord that I would do a few rapid fire ones for you. Agent X, will all skills have perks associated with them this time around?
Ready for the rapid fire.
All right.
Lay it on me. Can you repeat the question?
I need a shield or something. Okay, so Agent X, will all skills have perks associated with them this time around?
Should.
Yes?
Should.
Okay,
yes,
should.
Well, right. I'm not 100% sure, but I think should.
Should is good enough for me. From Olaf the Moose, just a yes or no. Can we expect to meet characters from the first game that we haven't yet seen in trailers or footage yet?
Yes.
From Hiteos, will armor varieties be more from the first game to include things like half-plate varieties?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I guess yes.
Yes? Okay. Yeah. From Awuki, will hardcore mode return?
Not sure yet.
Okay,
That's
maybe.
two. That's three words.
Okay, so okay, yes. So
Yeah.
yes, no, or maybe. How about
maybe.
we make it out to 3? So this one is kind of combined from D Silverwing and Let's Get Acid. Okay. Are we going to see are we going to see more varieties of weapons, and specifically will flails be featured?
Yes and no. Flails will be not in there, but like you mean the flail on the
Yes,
stick.
the flail with the yes.
Thing is, the reason is that it's pretty difficult to have the animation and the like the thing kind of
Right.
rotating and so on. So we decided that the effort that would need to go into that to make this enjoyable is too big, and it's not adding as much fun as it would require work.
Gotcha.
So greater weapon variety, absolutely. Even we know that already from crossbows and so on, but there will be also the halberds and spears,
Yes.
which were half-assed kind of in the first game. Now they will be fully usable, fleshed out, and yes, absolutely. And plus you can create your own weapons, of course.
Yes. Awesome. And from Velocity to Win, from the Knights of Brunswick armor we get from pre-ordering, will the armor be available from the very start, or will it be tied to a quest we have to complete in order to get it?
That is something where we where we pride ourselves that we do not like the kind of pre-orders where you just everything magically appears in a trunk and you just pick it up and you have it right away. So it's tied with a little quest where you have to get it and find it, and if you have it, it's great. It will not, of course, will not be the best armor you have until the end of the game, so you will have to change it. It would be boring if you get it in the beginning.
Right at the very start, and that's it. You never have to upgrade from there.
Plus, we don't want to like pay to win. So it's a very good armor, no doubt in that. But at some point in the game, it will not hold the standard anymore. But in the beginning, it's tied to a quest, which I think is cool. You get you have to do a little something, and then you get all the cool armor.
Gotcha.
Which, by the way, it's a very fancy old school armor.
Yes, I've seen the pictures. Yes,
it's actually a tournament armor with all the fanciness around, but it's older than it's older than 1403. It should be older than 1403, so it's kind of like ancient, but you get it.
All right, and final one. Will we be able to craft more than just weapons, or can we perhaps be able to also do armor or horseshoes at the forges?
Yes.
Okay.
To the first part, can we craft more? Yes.
Okay.
More than weapons? Yes.
More than weapons. Okay.
Exactly yet,
just a yes or no is good enough for me. We can do more than weapons. I am happy and content with that. So that is everything I have. Sir Tobi, any final closing remarks?
Well, I'm happy that you are around. Honestly, I'm happy that you and your community is around, and that you and other content creators and fans are around. It really, as I told you in the beginning of the interview, we do actually watch most of the stuff that is being released. We laugh about it, we cry about it, we get inspired about it. When there is someone criticizing something, we discuss if that is valid criticism or not, if that is something that should be changed or not. So these things are really valuable to us, and trust me, for us it was equally hard to not be able to talk about the game we are working on as you, not knowing what we are actually doing or waiting for the confirmation that it's KCD2. So it's a big thing. We're looking forward, and thank you for being around and keeping the motivation high at Warhorse Studios.
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you guys so much for everything that you guys have done. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 coming out on February 11th in 2025. I'm very excited. Sir Tobi, thank you so much for your time, and keep doing all the awesome stuff that every single person over at Warhorse Studios has been doing, and I'm sure will continue to do.
Thank you very much. And don't forget, Audentis Fortuna Juvat.
And stay medieval, everyone.
Of course.